It's Monday night, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino, via the Latino Spirit online magazine, the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, and without a doubt, the people's choice and the people's voice. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe, folks. Happy Monday to you all. Appreciate you joining us here on this, the 27th of March. In the year 2023, a lot to talk about during this very exciting election season. And without a doubt, again, thank you for joining us from wherever and however you may be doing so right here on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, and also on LinkedIn. Sharing is caring, folks. Takes a second. Click that share button on whatever social media platform you're watching the show today. And of course, you know, hey, it goes a long way in supporting Jersey First TV. Make sure you like us on Facebook. And, of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, as well as my own Instagram and Twitter at the Fernando Zone. Click that subscribe button right on YouTube for Jersey First, and you'll get all of our great content delivered right to your inbox every single time you go to YouTube. And, of course, wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Spotify or SoundCloud, download and take Jersey First TV with you wherever it is you're going. Hey, maybe you're trying to get summer body ready, going to the gym, you need something interesting to listen to. Hey, download and listen to Jersey First TV. All of our episodes, of course, courtesy of what I would call the dream team of New Jersey media. Yes, folks, great content is available to you every single week via Jersey First at jerseyfirst.org/TV. Of course, new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, courtesy of the outstanding host, Elizabeth Nader. And, of course, Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Rombolo. Again, new episodes air every Thursday as well on Jersey First TV. And certainly every Monday night live here at 6 p.m. Eastern time, you can check out new episodes live, unedited, of course, uncut, unfiltered, right here with Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Folks, I can't say enough again how proud I am to be a part of the Jersey First TV team. Again, a shout out to my boss. I know she doesn't like me to mention her too much on the air, but Rosemary Becky, certainly I can't say enough about how grateful I am for her belief in my abilities and thankful for her ongoing support here of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And of course, folks, can't say enough about you, my loyal listening audience and the viewing audience that tune in every single week. I have some interesting commentary, folks, at the end of the show here, some observations about what's going on in New Jersey media concerning Tom Moran and Terrence McDonald. You don't want to miss out on that, so stay tuned for that, as I'll be doing that as we close out the show. But, folks, it is election season, and certainly I've been interviewing candidates since January with primary day coming up. Candidates are still moving forward, and some candidates that may not be moving forward. And, of course, this hectic election cycle gets us talking. It gets us in a dialogue. It gets us chatting. And, of course, this week is no exception. Joining me here tonight is, again, just learning this recently, former state Senate candidate in the 39th Legislative District, all the way up in Bergen County. Folks, someone that, believe it or not, we started out in media together some 10 years ago, and now she's moving up, again, being on a school board and certainly learning her way around New Jersey politics. She is Michele LaTour, joining us here on Real Talk. Michele, what's up? How are you?
Hey, Fernando. How are you?
Good, good. Time flies, you know, starting up in media.
I know. It's been a decade.
I know, 10 years ago with Hudson County TV. Shout out to Julio Reynoso, who gave us a lot of creative freedom with our shows, I think, back when we were doing journalism.
We did.
On Hudson County TV. But certainly times have changed. You're a mom now. You are also on a school board. When we first talked, I think some time ago, you were running for the state Senate seat, again, trying to challenge in a primary in the 39th Legislative District. That has not happened. Obviously, it's not going to happen. It's my understanding that you decided not to file the necessary petitions for that. But before we even get into that process, let's sort of go back a little bit in time.
Okay.
And I think the reason people decide to run for office is they're not happy with their representation or something doesn't sit well with them, with their legislators. Where do you stand in that echo chamber?
Well, I got into the school board after the start of COVID, and when we really saw what was happening. With
what district was that in, by the way, just for our audience, just to make sure, what school district was that in?
I sit on the board of Northern Valley Regional High School, so it's 7 towns, 2 high schools, Ultapan and Demorest High School, and there's 9 board members on there. Okay. So I got on in 2021. I ran with another conservative, like-minded mom. We ran on the platform Education, Not Indoctrination, and we made a big splash, and we've been able to get on and make a lot of change. And I helped 7 other candidates get elected this past election cycle. And I was just fed up with what was happening, within the schools, primarily as a mom, because I have 2 young boys. But then when you look at a state level, that's where a lot of this critical race theory, the, sexual curriculum, the sex ed mandates and stuff, where that's coming from, and looking at how our Republican representatives are voting, I was just, disgusted, and I decided to step in.
Okay. Now, having said that, certainly the process starting up in January, maybe a little bit before, you live in the 39th legislative district. The state Senate seat is occupied currently by State Senator Holly Schepisi, who's a fan of the show. She's always been excellent with me. She'll be coming on the show in June, just a disclaimer for our audience, so they know that I interview everybody. But it seems like whether it was the convention for, whether it be in Bergen County for the BCRO or anything else, I think going into that, though, Michele, there was this perception, again, correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like there was this perception out there that the campaign was turning a little bit nasty, a little fickle, a little chippy during election season. Now, again, you ran a campaign to win a school board seat. Congratulations to that. But something must have prompted you to want to run for a state Senate seat in a seat that arguably, again, and let's be fair about it, statewide, Holly Schepisi is looked upon very favorably, right? So what prompted you? Was it one thing specifically, or was it a collection of things that didn't sit well with you? It was
really just looking at voting record. Okay. And I have it's nothing personal against any of our elected officials, but I think you hold a job and you hold a responsibility to represent, especially if you're a Republican, to represent the Republicans in our district. And if you look, she's voted with the Liberals 40 times on votes and chose not to vote on over 100 liberal bills. So that's not really giving us the representation that we need in Trenton. And, I think everyone needs to hold our elected officials accountable.
Well, I mean, just for example, I'm looking at some paperwork here. Obviously, as I try to do my homework and due diligence for the show, certainly the senator has been sort of avid about trying to fight overdevelopment, trying to fight, I think, at least be a voice also about housing in that district. I mean, when you mentioned that she has voted a certain way and it hasn't sat well with you, give us some specific, because I'm sure that people watching tonight were like, well, that's sort of a broad brush, and I want to give you the opportunity to sort of outline as much as possible, because bills are lengthy and they're laborious to read. I get it. I mean, it's not easy, but what is there anything specifically that hasn't sat well with you about?
Well, you mentioned development, so I know that she says that she is against development, but yet her law firm represents the developers that are overdeveloping our small towns. So that in itself is a big issue. There's something called cultural responsive teaching, which she voted yes to. They call it the new CRT. There's some red flag laws. She hasn't taken a stance on abortion. So those are some issues that, were alarming to me.
Okay. Just for our audience, again, sometimes maybe people just don't have Google right in front of them, but when you reference red flag laws, what's that? What does that encompass?
That encompasses like any sort of making it difficult to purchase firearms, basically. So a red flag law is like anyone can call up the police and say, for X, Y, and Z reasons, this person is unsafe or unfit to have a firearm, and they can take those without due process, which is unconstitutional.
Okay.
So I can send you, I have like a whole list of bills that I presented when I was running. And really, when you say that it was nasty or a negative campaign, I never said anything negative to anyone. All I did was talk about donations that were made to Democrats and a list of bills that were either, voted the wrong way or not voted upon. And that's pretty much all I talked about in my campaign.
All right. Again, in the words I'm using there, again, it's just the perception from advocates that I talk to, operatives, the political people that chirp in my ear that will send me stuff and say, Fernando, this is the perception. I'm like, all right, well, listen, I'm going to talk. I talk to everybody. I'm going to talk to her on the air. I'm going to address it. And again, because I'm fair with everybody. I'll ask tough questions, but I'm fair with my guests, whether you're on the right or the left or in the middle. So let's get into a little bit of that. So obviously, one of the things I know that was really, really sort of contingent on, because you've been very vocal about, as you mentioned, right, her capacity with her firm or anything else, and maybe materials that are out there for public consumption, right? Whether votes on bills or anything else. One of the big things I've heard from tons of people, for example, I know that David Wildstein, and arguably I think David Wildstein probably runs the most relevant and traffic-inducing political website in New Jersey. It's not NJ.com. It's certainly not Insider NJ. It's not NJ Spotlight News. I think we can make the case that the New Jersey Globe is the most read and probably the most heavily trafficked. That's probably a bad word. The most frequently visited political website in New Jersey with heavy traffic. So I know that some people have reached out to me and said, hey, Fernando, maybe David isn't publishing this for some reason. To my understanding, though, Michele, I mean, David Wildstein's a pretty autonomous guy. I mean, he lives in Florida, runs a website. To the best of my knowledge, he doesn't answer to anybody, and he publishes stuff that exposes. I mean, he breaks a lot of press releases. He breaks news that nobody else is breaking. So when I get people chirping in my ear saying, "Hey, Fernando, David isn't publishing X, Y, and Z about A, B, and C," I don't know. It doesn't seem like David's beholden to anybody, but maybe there's a reason. Do you care to respond to that?
I have no idea. I mean, I know a press release was sent out to him. He chose not to cover it. And he wrote a piece saying that I was running a negative campaign. So,
okay. Again, I have to ask because, like I said, it's one of those things where, people look at David Wildstein and like, listen, he's pretty, I mean, he leans right. I mean, he's right. He leans right, obviously, being a Republican operative, but it seems like he's had a lot of autonomy running the New Jersey Globe for some time. So for him not to publish something, a lot of people found it weird, and people were asking me. I mean, I'm friends with David. I'm going to have him on the show.
So you should ask David.
Well, when I talk to David, I'll have a chance to talk to him on the air about it, certainly. But he's been on this show before. He doesn't have any qualms about coming on. We have a rapport. We have a friendship. So, I mean, certainly it's something I can ask him. But it's one of those things where, again, certain things don't sit well with you, Michele. So you decided, obviously, after sort of going through the motions, going to the recent Bergen County Republican Organization Convention, right, where county lines are established. Both, Republicans and Democrats do it. Both parties have these lines. And, there's a court case right now that's going to be addressing that. And I think that Republicans and Democrats are rejoicing throughout the state, from my understanding. We'll see where it goes. But my understanding is your experience at the convention was a very interesting one. It was a very educational one because you had not been exposed to that.
Again, I'm new to politics, so it was definitely an interesting process to go through. I decided last minute, 15 minutes before the deadline, I submitted my paperwork to run. So I didn't have the infrastructure built behind me. I'm new to the game, and I went through the process. And within a month and a half that I campaigned, and I campaigned pretty hard. I was out knocking on doors with limited funds, and
Sure.
I was able to take a third of the votes, which I think that says a lot, that people really do want change, and if I did have an army behind me, I would have continued forward. But we all know the importance of the line and how difficult it is to win, especially, being by myself without a ticket all the way on the far side of the column.
No, it certainly is. And again, I think that's been a talking point for people on the right and the left that have said, you know what, maybe abolishing the line is something we should explore. Again, there's a court case right now in New Jersey that's going to address that. Where it goes, I don't know. Again, I don't have a law degree. That's not my field of expertise, but it is a grievance that I think many people have when it comes to running, especially against incumbents. Right? And when you mentioned the convention itself, so take us through that experience, because you're telling us that, I mean, again, I'm not sure how many delegates there were there voting, et cetera, but you're telling us that
there was close to 300, 280 something, I believe, that showed up. I think it was a potential of 400 people that could come. That included mayor and councils in each of the towns as well. But I think we had somewhere close to 300.
Okay. I mean, that's a significant amount of people.
Something like that.
That's a significant amount of people. And to your point about campaigning, it seems like you were able to generate some support, obviously, right? During that, well, at least lean into the convention.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I ran pretty much on an America First platform, which resonates with a lot of people these days. So it was great to see people come out and vote. And, I think it sent shockwaves to the establishment. Now,
let's talk about the establishment, because I've had some qualms. I've had some things to say about the New Jersey Republican Party. I know I'm not popular with them. I mean, listen, I think you've seen my social media.
You're not popular with them?
I know, right? I mean, a lot of people hate me. A lot of people hate me on the right and the left. But listen, I think you've seen my social media. I'm an unapologetic conservative. Okay.
I agree.
I'm not looking for work. I don't have to go begging anyone for a job in either party. I do very well in academia. I do very well in journalism. So I'm good. I can sort of speak my mind and say whatever I want. And I don't have to worry about getting canceled. But it seems like there are those within the establishment, though, Michele, statewide, that don't take kindly to constructive criticism. I'll give you an example. I have been openly just indignant about this, where, the census data that came out, obviously after COVID and whatever else, told us that not just nationally, but New Jersey specifically, it's not getting whiter, it's not getting blacker, it's getting browner. It's getting browner with people like me. Okay. And it seems like the Republican Party in New Jersey, never mind the national one. I have my issues with that, with their platform or their organization. But here in New Jersey, it just seems like the statewide apparatus is just content. I get it. You want to keep your seats, no question. But it just seems like they're not willing to go out on a limb, where in Central and South Jersey, Michele, for example, Republicans have a chance to win legislative seats. And it just seems like, oh, they're just content on saying, well, taxes are high. No effing blank. We know this. Oh, far left Democrats spend too much. No effing blank. Of course. But this is the thing. It's not just about that. It's about also affordability. We have the highest property taxes in the country, average. Okay, what else are you going to run on? It seems like, yeah, the message is kind of oversimplified, but it has to be more than that. I just think, listen, Republicans made some gains in 21. They won 8 assembly seats, sent 8 Republican women. They flipped the Senate seat. They only won 1 congressional seat last year. They should have won 3. They only won 1. It seems like this year they can win more legislative seats and shave into the majorities. Because let's be honest, whether it's the emperor or the far left in Trenton, like Coughlin, the assembly speaker, or Nick Scutari, who's pretty much just sort of rubber stamping what Steve Sweeney did and the emperor's doing, it just seems like those are vulnerable people in Trenton, right? It just seems like Republicans statewide aren't working hard enough. Am I wrong here?
I think it's a lot of the uniparty too. You don't see the Democrats working with Republicans, but you see the Republicans working with the Democrats or giving way. And I think they're a lot younger and fresher and hipper than a lot of the candidates we're putting forward. And it's the whole definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I think it's time. This was, for me, a wake-up call that it's time to get involved. And we need younger people and people that aren't as entrenched in Trenton.
All right. Well, let me just ask, and folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 6:16 here on the East Coast. Joining me here live on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe is former state Senate candidate out of LD 39, Michele LaTour, also a school board member, again, North Haven School District.
Northern Valley Regional.
Sorry, Northern Valley Regional School District trustee here joining us on a Real Talk. Michele, obviously you were running as a school board election candidate. You won. You chose not to run for a state Senate seat. But it seems like as a mom, you're so concerned about what's going on in New Jersey, especially in our schools. And I've been someone that has had, as a matter of fact, in a few weeks, I'm going to have the president of the NJ LGBT Democrats on, which is always a very feisty and lively conversation. And, I've been accused of being a transphobe, a homophobe, every type of phobe possible. I'm not. I'm just calling into question things that, quite frankly, I don't have any kids that I know of. But if I did and they were in a school district, I would be pretty concerned about how overly sexualized our school climate is becoming for kids. That doesn't make me a homophobe or a transphobe. One thing is high school. I mean, I think I'm older than you are, but I remember a time that we probably went to school around this, maybe the same era, where we know what we learned in sex ed in high school. The idea that it's somehow acceptable to overly sexualize curriculum for kids as young as 5, I'm sorry, I'm not down with that. And it's hard. And I never really get anyone on the left to refute me or say, well, Fernando, it's not that. You ran for school board. You ran on that platform.
I did.
So what exactly? Because some on the left will tell you, Michele, you're overly hysterical. No one's vilifying gay people. I'm sorry. We're not looking to, shove anything down anyone's throat.
But that's the problem. It is being shoved down people's throats. That's the problem. If you want to live your life as an adult, live your life. But when you start pushing it on children and normalizing, and we had a situation where our librarian set up a whole display, and it wasn't June, it wasn't any sort of holiday, but there was a whole display for the 8th graders coming in to tour the school, where it was all gay America, and all this, everything was about being gay or trans, or like, parents were offended by that. They're walking into the school for the first time with their children. That's not what they want to see. They feel like it's being thrown down their throat. A lot of times children aren't even at the age where they can understand these things, and they're just confusing them. That's the problem.
All right. So let's get into it. Do you feel that maybe some in the legislature have not been as vocal about sticking up for parents, let's say, as you have running on a school board platform? Do you think legislators should be doing a better job of maybe raising awareness about it?
I do. I think they have a platform, and they should be in the trenches with us, especially during our election seasons, coming to meetings. Right now, things are kind of quiet in our school district, but I know we have elections coming up, so it'll start getting loud again. And I think every legislator should use their platform to, bring attention to these topics.
Again, when we look at, and again, I'm just looking at my notes here, when we think about curriculum, and never mind CRT, because again, as someone who's worked in academia, I understand that, yes, many on the left will say, well, Fernando, they'll say, Dr. Uribe, CRT is only really, curriculum that's, predicated on law school students. But again, I've worked in academia. I've designed a syllabi, multiple syllabi. All it takes for me is to sort of embellish some words and not call it CRT,
exactly,
and rephrase it as something else, and it can pass the mustard. Never mind academia, which we all know it leans crazy left, but along school board district lines, let's just take Montclair, the People's Republic of Communist Montclair. All it takes is 1 or 2 teachers in that school district to just rephrase or rebrand, professional victimhood, virtue signaling, which is what a lot of CRT is. Again, if law school students want to learn that, great. Doesn't take much for a teacher to rebrand it. And if it's a school district that acquiesces to this nonsense, it'll filter its way down, right? I may have lost Michele there.
I'm still here.
Okay. Did you hear my question, or did you want me to rephrase it? Or
I heard you talking about just rephrasing it and calling it something else, but it basically being the essence of CRT.
I'll just finish the question. So, I mean, pretty much it seems like, many on the left are indignant about, well, conservatives are hijacking this and trying to say that they're trying to, brainwash. No, what I'm saying is that all it takes is savvy teachers or a savvy school district to rebrand curriculum that involves CRT, that again is predicated on professional victimhood, virtue signaling, and everything else, and kind of make our kids either feel guilty about their background or do shove it. Listen, we all know slavery existed. We all know about the Confederacy. We all know about Juneteenth. That's not what we're arguing about. It's sort of invoking this, what I would say, many would say, this malicious tone to how we look at race and making others feel bad about their background and shoving it down the throat. Is that a good way I just described?
It is. It's the whole oppressor situation. So whether it's, with gay and straight or black and white or whatever it is, that's the narrative that's being pushed. And it's causing, honestly, children that didn't notice things like this, it's causing them to see race and to see sexual orientation. And it's causing a divide. Okay.
Now, again, getting back to your experience with the BCRO and certainly that convention, you made a decision to not file the necessary signatures before the deadline. Obviously, you're looking at this, I would argue, probably as a learning experience. Again, I'm a big sports fan, so I'll sort of use a term I think that a lot of sports fans will appreciate, sort of Monday morning quarterback this. How do you want to move forward? I mean, are you looking back and saying, maybe I should have started campaigning earlier, maybe I should have started raising money?
I don't have any regrets because it was a last minute decision. And I think everything happens for a reason. And I made a name for myself, and a lot of people want to sit down and, have conversations. And I now know the game, and I know the players, and I know how to attack it. So I definitely will be back again.
Well, when you say that, in the sense, again, you went to the convention, you understood sort of the mechanism, and now you understand, I think.
Well, I never understood county committee. I never even knew that existed. So to learn that whole aspect and how important it is, and these relationships and open seats, and, there's it's all about building an army. You know, I don't want to be Rambo coming in here, you know, trying to go at war with everyone. I think you need to be strategic.
Okay. Now, again, based on the legislative cycle, it would seem that this race, I think, for really all 80 assembly seats and all 40 state Senate seats. Well, the assembly seats are every 2 years, but it would seem that this
every 2 years, and then this cycle of Senate is 4 years.
Exactly. So, are you looking at it really about the sense of, let's say, 2027, where you want to keep building an apparatus? I mean, I know you're dedicated to your.
No, I don't think that far out, and I don't think it necessarily has to be a Senate seat. I think there's other ways to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish.
Okay. You're a mom. Obviously, you're concerned about your kids. You're concerned about kids everywhere in New Jersey.
Concerned about our country, quite honestly.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're going down the tubes with.
We are, and we have the establishment that's running everything.
You know, and with
so
the
it's
guy,
time to get those people out and get fresh people in that have some sort of moral obligation and want to do what's best and serve we the people, as opposed to serving themselves for power and money.
Well, certainly at the national level, we know we have a president who's already asleep by this time, and we have a vice president.
He doesn't even know where he is.
Yeah, and we have a vice president that's cackling like a hyena. But and certainly, you know, we know here in New Jersey at the state level, you know, the emperor is under this delusion he's going to run for president one day, which I think is delusional. And I'm being kind. I could use another word, but it's not appropriate for television. But it seems like, you know, and this is the problem though, Michelle, because I know where I live in LD 33, like my mayor is also my state senator, but he's a blue collar working class Democrat. He doesn't acquiesce to the woke nonsense. He passed high school biology like you and I did. He understands that there aren't 35 genders. He understands that, you know, he understands economics, right? About responsible spending, keeping taxes down. That's not the case in Trenton. I think a lot of people on the far left have hijacked the message.
And hijacked the party.
And hijacked the party.
Yeah.
Well, I think that on the Republican side, I think, again, this is an opportunity where Republicans can make some gains and hold Democrats accountable, the far left Democrats, because there are some working class blue collar Democrats that are reasonable, but those aren't the ones occupying positions of power in leadership in the party. We have the majority leader, Teresa Ruiz, who this one never took an economics course, and you can tell when you listen to her. And we all know about Craig Coughlin and Nick Scutari. Again, just spend. It's almost like that trophy wife that like you're afraid to take out to the mall because she'll run your credit card into the ground. It seems like that's what's prevalent in Trenton. But before I let you go, I really enjoyed our conversation. And certainly I know that it wasn't easy for you to come to this decision, but it seems like there was sort of a moment of awareness where you're like, you know what, I could run off the line. I could do that. You chose not to. Is that just, again, not having the infrastructure, money, or apparatus? Or is it just, you know what, I made some noise, but I need to continue to make more noise, but that'll take time. Is that fair to say?
I think at the end of the day, it's important, regardless of how I feel about our current senator. And again, it's nothing personal, but as far as viewpoints of being conservative, I think it's still important to have a Republican in office. And for the two of us to get bloody and dirty in a primary, and statistically, most likely I'm going to lose, it's really going to set her up for a worse situation against the Democrats. And I think it's important overall to have Republican representation in District 39. So if I thought, if I had a whole full ticket together and we were, you know, campaigning for 6 months, I would definitely have done it because I really think I would have a chance to win. But, you know, being alone by myself without the infrastructure and coming in last minute, it just didn't make sense to continue forward.
Okay, fair enough. And again, I think we can all, whether there are people watching today that agree with you or disagree with you, I think it's healthy to see that awareness, because I think a lot of people that run for any sort of office, sometimes there are people out there that don't have awareness. And I think that harms their campaign. It harms their message. And I think that, listen, I applaud you because not everyone's going to have that awareness. So I appreciate that.
It's not that I'm not continuing forward, but.
No, certainly. No, I mean, certainly in this race, but will you be reaching out to State Senator Shapizi? I mean, I think listen, I've gotten to know Holly personally. She's someone that I think is reasonable, that is always gracious, and will talk to anyone, regardless of where they sit across the political spectrum. And I know that she is receptive to criticism and constructive criticism. Are you looking forward to speaking with the senator, maybe to either, you know, collaborate, brainstorm? Is that something you want to do with the senator?
You never know what the future holds. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, again, folks, I ask the questions, she gets the answers. That's what my guests do every week. Michelle, again, I want to thank you for your time. Obviously, it's been a very insightful conversation. I appreciate you coming on here and answering some tough questions. And I appreciate you being transparent about it. Best of luck to you, in terms of what you're doing politically. And I thank you for being a fan of Real Talk. Certainly share the episode. And again, best of luck to you. Certainly, we've come a long way from journalism to now what we're doing. Best of luck to you. I'll give you the last word here tonight.
Well, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. And I think everyone should take the time to get involved locally in their politics, whether it's school board, showing up, holding their elected officials accountable, because that's really how we're going to make a difference.
Okay, fair enough. Folks, she is Michele LaTour, previously running for state senate in LD 39, certainly an avid school board trustee, and I'm sure that she will not be quiet when it comes to curriculum that really is harmful to our kids, whether it's about over-sexualizing them, whether it's about professional victimhood, race baiting, all that good stuff that the left seems to feast on every election cycle, Michele. So I appreciate your time. Best of luck to you. Happy Easter. Happy Mother's Day in advance to you. And again, thank you for showing support for Real Talk via Jersey First TV.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.
Folks, again, great episode here again. And as I said, I like to interview everybody, candidates, potential candidates, those that are avidly sticking up for our children at school board meetings, at school board elections. I think those are things that, quite frankly, we should all applaud. And certainly, I think during this election cycle, it is one that, will continue to generate a lot of interest. Disclaimer here, special programming note, obviously, just confirming today, I will have State Senator Holly Schepisi on the show coming up on Monday, June the 12th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. She's always been very gracious to me and coming on Real Talk, obviously under a different platform. I look forward to having her on here on Jersey First TV coming up later on in this summer because, folks, I talk to everybody and clearly everybody talks to me. So I'm looking forward to that interview. She's always been just, again, very gracious with me. So I look forward to talking to her as well as other exclusives that I bring you every single week here on Real Talk. Folks, before we go here, some final thoughts on some observations in the New Jersey and political and media spectrum here. And one that really stands out for me, and, folks, I've always had my issues talking about Tom Moran. And, looking at Tom Moran and his latest column here, which was really interesting. You'll definitely have to check it out. And again, don't subscribe for $1 because that's what NJ.com tries to scam you on. Believe me, it's not worth it. But interesting opinion in his latest column here, a message for Trump's shock troops, bring it, we're ready. It's very interesting, though, folks. I'm not going to read you the column here. I mean, you can read that for yourself if you need to go to sleep early. Trust me, this will cure your insomnia right away. But what's interesting about Tom Moran's column here, again, it's just sort of, folks, I've seen Tom Moran in person. Believe me, he's 105 pounds soaking wet. He's not the most menacing or imposing person. So I hope he wasn't talking about him because I think the last person he'll be ready about for anything would be Tom Moran. But I think what's interesting is the premise that, again, he, like many on the left, seem to be fixated on the 45th president and any potential indictments. I'm still waiting. It's like I'm waiting for the New York Mets to win a World Series. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for indictments. And what's really, really funny to me is, again, Tom Moran's anger is misplaced. What else is new, right? Because if anything, what we should be really livid about is Alvin Bragg, this disgraceful prosecutor in New York, okay, that openly ran a campaign against the former president. He ran his campaign to win the office of district attorney, specifically putting, the former president in his crosshairs. If that's not someone that's looking to weaponize his office, I don't know what is. But God forbid Tom Moran would talk about that because he's more fixated on this nonsense about the former president and whatever hush money was paid to a former porn star. A couple of things, folks. That happened before Donald Trump was a candidate, right? Before president, while he was a candidate. A sitting president, right? Everyone forgets. And I know Tom, in his old age is, experiencing that forgetfulness, but do we not remember Bill Clinton in office throwing almost $1 million at Paula Jones in the form of hush money to make sure that Paula Jones wouldn't talk? Again, this was a sitting president doing this. But Tom Moran won't tell you that because Tom Moran, again, is selective what he wants to be outraged about, just like this column, right? Now, back whenever Donald Trump hooked up with Stormy Daniels and, wow, a wealthy man hooking up with a porn star. Wow. Oh, my God, what a surprise. Water, wet. I mean, I don't know about any straight male that wouldn't have done that, billionaire or no billionaire. But again, let me not digress here. But again, that happened when he was a candidate. And the money that was used to pay Stormy Daniels was not paid out of his pocket, but out of the pocket of, at the time, Donald Trump's attorney, disgraced attorney Michael Cohen, right? And we're seeing the emails and we're seeing other correspondence and other discovery that clearly shows that Donald Trump didn't come out of pocket for this. But Tom Moran won't tell you that. Tom Moran would rather virtue signal and think it's okay for a district attorney in the city of New York to weaponize his office, right? He won't tell you that. And again, that's why there wasn't an indictment last week. And there's not going to be an indictment. But again, Tom Moran would much rather virtue signal. Tom Moran would much rather tell you about how evil this is and how the former president is looking to maybe lead another supposed insurrection. Folks, what happened on January 6th, 2021 wasn't an insurrection. We've seen the footage already, okay? And of course, leftists like Tom Moran want to sort of parade this picture out of the young man with the Viking helmet or horns or whatever. Yeah, that same guy who was guided through the Capitol by Capitol Police. Tom Moran won't talk about that, and Tom Moran won't talk about that footage, which is now public consumption. Okay, and thank God for Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy for making this footage possible, because we all know House Democrats in Washington didn't want this to see the light of day. I wonder why. But again, folks, Tom Moran's very, very interested in making sure that we focus on an indictment. And you know what? Tom Moran reminds me a lot of these like leftists that are so fixated, right, on an indictment. They were salivating. They were probably waiting for the stroke of midnight last week to go talk to their friends. Oh my God, you hear Trump got indicted? Well, guess what? He didn't. And I'm still waiting. It seems like Tom Moran fits this meme perfectly. We're back in 2015. Oh my God, Trump is headed to prison. And then 2016, and then 2017, and then 2018, and then 2019, the Mueller report, Russia, 2020, Trump is headed to prison. Folks, we're in 2023. Donald Trump's no closer heading to prison than the New York Mets are in winning the World Series. Okay? We'll all keep waiting for the Mets to win a title. We're all going to keep waiting for Donald Trump to get indicted. Okay? It seems like it's the left's fantasy, and obviously it's the fantasy of Tom Moran. And folks, it would require shame to even put this out there. But when you're as shameless as Tom Moran, I don't know, folks. It just seems like you're beating an old drum and singing an old song. I don't know what to tell you. And of course, let me also bring up another journalist. Actually, this is the guy who I have respect for. I don't have respect for Tom Moran, but I do have respect for Terrence McDonald. And what concerns me about Terrence McDonald, and again, let me preface this by saying that, we know Terrence McDonald is gay. He's a gay man. And he posted a commentary recently highlighting that emails from the election law watchdog reveal a fixation on the LGBTQ community, right? So certainly, and again, credit to Terrence McDonald. When he wrote last week about his opposition to Governor Murphy's move to force out Mr. Brindle by hijacking control of the Election Law Enforcement Commission. Again, a bill is under consideration by the legislature, and it ultimately would give Murphy the sole power to remove the current commissioners and replace them all. Nothing in Brindle's emails makes me reconsider this, since I don't think the governor should gain this much power just to target one person. Again, kudos to Terrence McDonald on this, because we've had a lot of other leftists, a lot of insufferable journalists or wannabe journalists, right, who are also LGBTQ, who have been livid about what the emails contain. Good for Terrence for not sort of following along the lines and sort of, being like seals at the local circus, being like waiting for fish. Good for Terrence for not sort of, towing that line. Now, again, where I sort of take some exception is, Terrence goes on to write, that doesn't mean that the commissioners shouldn't examine Brindle's behavior at work. If he's using his email to trade anti-LGBTQ stories with staffers, what does that mean about how he treats subordinates from that community, right? What does it say about the overall environment of his office? Is the stuff he says out loud worse than what he commits to writing in documents he knows can be publicly revealed? And also, why are Brindle and other commission employees exchanging work emails during work hours about subjects irrelevant to their jobs, like transgender swimmers who live in another state, or PR gimmicks by Burger King in Austria? Could this be why the commission's investigations move at a glacial pace? Right? So, for example, Brindle's commissioners are holding a meeting next week to discuss the matter. Garner State Equality, the state's leading LGBTQ rights groups, more on them later, is demanding that Brindle resign, saying that the emails received Brindle's workplace is, quote, steeped in a toxic brin of biases which has no place in a civilized society. We are disgusted by his visible contempt for the LGBTQ community. This is even more shocking as it is spewed from his official government email account, which carries with it the imprimatur of an official government position, according to the statement read last week by Garner State Equality. So, of course, one last thing that Terrence references about the National Coming Out Day email. And that one, Brindle emailed a staffer in reference to October 11, 2022, an email from state government noting that the day was National Coming Out Day. Brindle wrote to someone, "Are you coming out?" No link into Washington's birthday, but we celebrate National Coming Out Day. Well, to Terrence's point, he goes, we do celebrate Washington and Lincoln's birthday. It's called President's Day. And Brindle, as a state employee, has a paid day off to commemorate it. He did not get one for National Coming Out Day. I get why this doesn't sit well with Terrence McDonald. I get it. Okay. As a straight man, obviously, there's a lot of reasons to hate Fernando Uribe, but being straight isn't one of them. And I understand that for him and other members of the LGBTQ community, I get it. Your status and where your community obviously resides is going to get you some vitriol. And that's unfortunate. You don't deserve it whatsoever. I've been always clear about that. Okay. What happens though, and again, this is where I commend Terrence. He's doing a great job in outlining what the problem is. And again, I applaud him for not acquiescing to a lot of the leftist journalists in the LGBTQ community and all their advocates and all the minions that are just open about having this guy resign because of what these emails represent. Okay. And again, we all know who the usual suspects are. Okay. We all know what they stand for. We all know on tweets, right? Looking at, for example, Nancy Solomon, a journalist here talking about what the emails represent. Of course, right. Right away, we always have the usual virtue signalers like Insider NJ's Jay Lassiter, of course, Anjali Malhotra, former president of the New Jersey chapter of NOW, as well as others that sort of, feed into all this nonsense. Okay. No one's asking gay people to die, Jay. And the same thing goes for Anjali. No one's hoping that gay people die or that LGBTQ people die. No one's saying that. Okay. Again, stop with the hysteria. Okay. This is where you lose people. Okay. When you start talking about, school board candidates are hoping for their demise. No one's asking for the death of anybody. What school board candidates are doing, Anjali and Jay and the rest of the minions and the rest of the Lollipop Guild in New Jersey, right? We all know they all sort of congregate with each other, right? Whether it's them, whether it's former legislator Maria Rodriguez-Gregg, whether it's former operative here in New Jersey, Corin Frankfurt, and the rest of the Lollipop Guild that seem to get easily triggered by stuff like this. Okay. Good for Terrence McDonald not falling into that trap. Okay. Because the bigger question here, again, you can have issues with the emails all you want, but the bigger issue, the more important issue, folks, is whether or not we should allow Governor Murphy to have that much power in who he wants on the election commission. That should be the bigger issue. Okay. And what's interesting to me about all this is, again, I applaud Terrence for talking about this openly. And I get it. It bothers him. He's a gay man. I get it. It triggers him specifically. Okay. Now, as it pertains to National Coming Out Day and whether or not that was an inappropriate email by Mr. Brindle, here's an easy solution, Terrence and everybody else in the LGBTQ community. Okay. You live in a state where it's predominantly very LGBTQ friendly. Fill up their inbox, go to their office hours, blow up their social media, and reach out to legislators. You clearly have the votes, right? In a blue New Jersey and in a blue legislature where, again, Democrats have majorities in the state assembly and the state senate. If you think National Coming Out Day is so important and we should have a day off for it, go right to them. Okay? Stop going to social media, stop your bitching and moaning, and go to your legislators. Because if it's that important of a cause, write to them. And we'll see where legislators stand. Okay? Now, again, also, another interesting component here, because people all across social media want to chirp about whether or not I'm a transphobe or a homophobe or I'm anti-LGBTQ. I'm none of those things. Okay? And guess what? If I was any of those things, do you think, again, I'm not picking on Terrence McDonald per se, right? Because I don't think he really has an issue with me, right? But if I was as openly anti-LGBT as everybody would claim to be, right? Well, guess what? Don't you think Garden State Equality would maybe, not follow me on Twitter? Maybe not follow me on Instagram? Of course they do. Now, you might say, well, Fernando, they can always mute you. No, if I was openly anti-LGBTQ, rest assured, folks, Christian Friscarino, Garden State Equality would block me right away. So the fact that they haven't, they follow me on Twitter should tell you exactly about where my positions lay and where I stand and how commonsensical and reasonable I am. That's not the case for everybody else on the far left in New Jersey, but it certainly is to organizations like Garden State Equality. And clearly, for someone like Terrence McDonald, well, again, I applaud him for speaking out about this, but I think the anger is ultimately misplaced. Redirect your anger, not at Mr. Brindle, redirect your anger at legislators, because you know what? If National Coming Out Day is that important to you, do me a favor. Write to legislators, bombard them, harass them until you get a paid day off in the state of New Jersey. It seems in a blue New Jersey, you shouldn't have any problem reaching out to legislators. Now, if they don't want to vote on that, maybe that's something you need to dig into, Terrence, as well as others of the LGBT community here in the state of New Jersey. And that's our show for this week, folks. Once again, I want to thank Michele LaTour, former state Senate candidate, for joining us here. Always check us out on all of our social media platforms. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Like us on Facebook, of course. Subscribe to Jersey First TV on YouTube. And wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you take Jersey First TV with you, whether it's on SoundCloud and Spotify. And, of course, also, folks, I can't say enough about the outstanding dream team of journalism here in the state of New Jersey. Of course, it consists of Elizabeth Nader, the host of the Nader Narrative on Thursdays, with, again, new episodes airing every Thursday via jerseyfirst.org/TV, and also Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Rombolo, amazing journalists in their own right and commentators. Check out new episodes of Bridging the Gap on Thursday nights via Jersey First TV. And, of course, you can check out new episodes of Real Talk with yours truly, Fernando Uribe, every Monday night live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Special programming note, folks, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'll have a special Tuesday night edition. I'm doing double duty this week, folks, of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. I'll have the editor of Save Jersey, Matt Rooney, on. I have a lot to say about LGBTQ curriculum, what's going on here, obviously with this matter, with Mr. Brindle and the Election Law Commission, and certainly with the ramifications of that, and much more that's going on, not just in conservative politics, but in the New Jersey political spectrum. Folks, mark on your calendars tomorrow. Mark it down, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, a special Tuesday edition of Real Talk with Matt Rooney live here on Jersey First TV. And, of course, you can always check us out on all of our social media platforms. Folks, I can't say enough. Thank you so much for watching here this week. Again, the traffic continues to be great and outstanding. And, for a lot of the journalists out there, a lot of the haters that seem to sort of love taking shots at me online and sending some vitriol my way, all you're doing is sending more followers and more traffic to me. And for a lot of these journalists out there, right, that they try to aspire for great traffic, and they wake up in the morning like, let me see, what can I do to be great today? And then they go about their day having breakfast, and then they sort of think about it during the day and say, will I be great today? And they go about their business, and they're driving home from work, and then they're probably asking, how can I be great today? And they struggle with that question all day long. And they go to bed and they wake up the next morning to sort of live this out all over again. And I feel bad for them because that's sort of a struggle that they have to live with every day. Some people wake up with those struggles, and some people just wake up and we're just great. We're not the same. When it comes to journalism, my traffic speaks for itself. Greatness, not so much over there. Folks, once again, that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, check us out here. We're always educating, we're always entertaining, and we're always engaging. That's what we do here on Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, and of course, the people's choice and the people's voice. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, folks. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, for a special Tuesday edition of Real Talk with Fernando, with Matt Rooney. Folks, mark your calendars. I'll see you tomorrow night. Of course, folks, enjoy the rest of Women's History Month. Shout out to all the ladies that make a difference in all of our lives. And, of course, continue to work hard every single day. Shout out to all you ladies here as we close out the month of March. Folks, as always, Thank you so much for watching.